So we won't forget it later.
Brilliant.
Mm. Hello to everyone who just joined us. We're gonna start in a few minutes.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate everyone coming in on a Saturday, because it's like usually time to decompress and you're coming to like, be inspired. So thank you for making the time and effort.
I think all those who have attended have this passion inside that they want to make this into a project, or they've already have some similar experiences, but they want to extend their knowledge, the ideas. Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a group of passionate people.
Yay! That's the nicest.
Yes, of course. It's very exciting. Okay, oh, I forgot to open my camera. I wanted to change the setups.
Don't you worry.
Okay. Hello and welcome to those who just joined us. We're going to start in a few minutes, and to make sure that everyone already. Yeah. Okay. More people are joining us. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Okay. You can all find related resources and service design plus channels in the chat, and also you can find Joumana's LinkedIn and website also in the chat box, in the messages parts. Okay.
Brilliant.
Okay. So, do you think that we shall start, or we can wait one more minute?
Yeah, like one more minute, and by the time we start also doing the intros, we probably will have critical mass.
Okay. Okay. So let's start this exciting presentation that we've been waiting for it for months. Okay. Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to our today's session. It's wonderful to have you all here from all around the world, and together and talk about this interesting topic, passion to projects, and hearing from a wonderful woman and a service designer, Joumana Mattar. We are very, very pleased and honored to have you here today and to hear about your project and go deeper on the subject of co-creation and designing for social impact. So let's have a quick introduction to technical matters and everything. I'm gonna explain this in Persian. درود بر دوستان عزیز. اگر که ترجیح میدین که زیرنویس فارسی داشته باشین از صحبت‌هایی که میشه، میتونین این در واقع پلاگین رو روی نصب کنید و به شکل همزمان ترجمه فارسی رویداد رو هم داشته باشین. The whole presentation will be in English. You can download this plugin and have live translation subtitles on your Chrome. And also the Q&A session would be in English, but you can also ask your question in Persian and we will answer them. And also the video will be shared on YouTube, so then you can also turn on the subtitle and see the translated subtitle there. Okay. My name is Mehnus Samanian, and I'm your host today, and I'm representing Service Design Pulse. You might already know us. We are a group of service designers, and our mission is to create a bridge between service designers and other disciplines, between service design and industries and business owners, and also between local community and the global community. We've done some activities before. Here you can see our main principles and approaches. You might be familiar with our channels already, but you can find us on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Instagram. And we've already published some videos, and you can also find the video of this session on YouTube later. And if you have followed us, you know that we have covered the Service Design Global Conference 2024 already by publishing posts on the, covering the talks, and we are going to publish a brief report on this topic also this year. And also you can find our last year's report on our channels. So here a brief of all our channels that you can find us on, and you can follow us for further exciting events like this one. Okay. So as I told you before, we are on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and we would be more than happy to have you there. Okay. So here we are today we are honored to host Joumana Mattar, an experienced and well-known service designer, and she works in different areas, and she works as a team coach, and she has this very well-designed workshops that actually we met in one of those, and on rituals, and I've learned from her since then. She has experienced more than 17 years of experience in service design in different industries and in different roles, and also working with multinational teams. And I think it's better to ask you to introduce yourself more and deeper. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mahernosh, and thank you to the Service Design Pulse for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Joumana. I'm Lebanese, and I've been based in Madrid for the last 10 years now. And I've been jumping around. I started as a graphic designer. I did a master's in design management, and then I worked a lot in service design. And from there, I certified in coaching. So the good news is your career can always evolve. The bad news is you have to put in a lot of work for your career to evolve. So that's the two sides of the story. And kind of the continuation of this journey is to keep exploring projects that you can be passionate about, and projects that invite you to grow as well. So this is kind of the reason why we are here today, to explore where we can put our passion into action, and to see how all the parts we learn as we grow can come into use. So I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you very much for being us today. Okay, the topic that we will hear from is passion to project, and it's going to and we will explore a project that Joumana led and executed following her passion, and for getting better idea of the whole project and the context, where we will watch a short video, and then we continue our presentation with Joumana. Just please tell me that if you can hear the sound. Sorry, I think. Okay. Do you hear it?
Yes.
Just give me a sec.
Yes.
Thank you very much, but I think my laptop problem. Okay, and I need to. Sorry.
Mahernosh, that would be great if we can hear it in a higher volume.
Okay, that's a great idea. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Sorry, I had to accept some people, and it caused a glitch in my laptop. It caused an error.
It's not a virtual meeting without some tech challenges. So we are right on track.
No, no, that would be exceptional if we had that. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Oh, why? Please. We had this experience of attending a meeting, and it was on, okay. Microsoft was presenting, and their software went into some problems, and he was begging the software to work well. Literally. Okay, I think I'm gonna reload this. It's weird because it doesn't show us, any other parts of the like.
پروژه‌های هم‌آفرینی اجتماعی به یکی از مؤثرترین ابزارها برای ساختن آینده‌ای بهتر تبدیل شدند. این پروژه‌ها با پر کردن شکاف‌های آموزشی، تقویت فرهنگ همکاری و مسئولیت‌پذیری و توانمندسازی جوامع محلی نقش مهمی در توسعه پایدار ایفا می‌کنند و به افراد کمک می‌کنند تا آینده‌ای مطلوب برای خود ترسیم و خلق کنند. طراحی خدمات به عنوان یک چارچوب نوآورانه در این مسیر نقش کلیدی داره. این رویکرد با تمرکز بر نیازها و ارزش‌های انسانی تجربه‌های آموزشی و اجتماعی تاثیرگذار و ماندگاری خلق می‌کنه. نمونه درخشان از این تلاش‌ها پروژه توانمندسازی دانش آموزان در تانزانیا است که با همکاری سازمان غیردولتی چتی اجرا شد. در این پروژه یادگیری با استفاده از محتوای آموزشی تعاملی مانند کتاب‌هایی با داستان‌های حیوانات، موسیقی و فعالیت‌های جذاب به سفری الهام بخش و خارق‌العاده تبدیل شد. ما در سرویس دیزاین پالس با اعتقاد به اهمیت مسئولیت اجتماعی و بهره‌گیری از ظرفیت تعاملات بین‌المللی تلاش می‌کنیم بستری برای تبادل دانش و تجربیات فراهم کنیم. به همین منظور وبینار ویژه‌ای با حضور جومانا مطار، طراح لبنانی مقیم اسپانیا که داستان این پروژه غیرانتفاعی رو ارائه خواهد کرد برگزار می‌کنیم. او در این رویداد تمامی مراحل پروژه رو از شناسایی چالش‌ها و ایده پردازی خلاقانه تا اجرا و غلبه بر موانع به صورت دقیق تشریح خواهد کرد. این وبینار فرصتی منحصر به فرد برای یادگیری از تجربیات عملی این پروژه و بررسی راهکارهای همکاری در طرح‌های مشابه است. ما از طراحان خدمات، تجربه کاربری، طراحان کنشگر، کارآفرینان اجتماعی، تسهیلگران و مربیان، فعالان حوزه کودک و آموزش، پژوهشگران در حوزه طراحی، علوم اجتماعی و توسعه پایدار، مدیران مسئولیت اجتماعی سازمان‌ها و تمامی علاقه‌مندان و سازمان‌های غیرانتفاعی دعوت می‌کنیم تا به این گفتگوی بین‌المللی جذاب بپیوندند و در ارتقاء خلاقیت و ایجاد تغییرات مثبت در ایران و سراسر جهان نقش آفرینی کنند. این رویداد نه تنها فرصتی برای یادگیری بلکه گامی مؤثر در جهت همکاری جهانی و توانمندسازی جوامع برای ساختن آینده‌ای بهتره.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for all the team for preparing this lovely presentation and for bringing us together as service designers, willing to explore new ways of making change. So I'm going to go ahead and share or not
Yeah,
yet?
of course. No, of course, yeah.
Cool.
The stage is all yours. Yeah.
Oh, let's see what technical challenge will be waiting for us now, but I think it's working fine. So perfect. So welcome everyone. My name is Joumana. We are going to be exploring a very special project that I worked on last year for an NGO called Cheti in Tanzania. And we're going to go on this journey and see how we can co-design and how we can do that to have some social impact. So, you know, my name is Joumana. A lot of my life has been characterized by travel and living in different places. And one of the things that I'm going to share with you today is why the project in Africa and why it was relevant and important to me. So in 2023, I turned 40. And it was a moment of introspection for me to think about how do I want to bring in this new decade and how do I want it to characterize and help me grow. So I went back to this place where I was born, which is Sierra Leone, which is in Africa. So I've lived in 3 main countries in my life, Sierra Leone, Lebanon, and Spain. And when I was turning 40, I was like, okay, I would love to do something to honor this continent where I was born. I also wanted to connect more with nature, and I wanted to have a good, healthy lifestyle going forward. So all of those together, the Venn diagram where they collect was, okay, let's do a challenge where you go back to Africa, but you find the highest mountain in Africa and you get ready to summit it. So this is the Mount Kilimanjaro, which is found in Tanzania. And this was my goal, where I spent 2 years getting ready to be able to climb the mountain in 2023. As you can see, it was very hard. I do not look glamorous at all in this picture because you fight mountain sickness, it's tiring, it's very cold, you do the summit at night, but at the end, you're also really proud of everything you learn along the journey. And just getting there, it's one point of a much bigger part of the story. And one of the things I always think that getting ready for Kilimanjaro taught me a lot about how it's important to take care of ourselves and be gentle with ourselves. And remember that even if we are the ones taking the step by step on the mountain, we don't do it alone. We do it with the support of our tribes. And so part of this preparation, I invited some friends to write some messages for me, like inspirational messages on some cloths that then I ironed onto the buff. So this is like the piece of cloth you put here so you don't die of cold while you're summiting. And the last night of the summit was really hard because to reach the mountain, you do it at night, and you reach there when the sun is rising. And there's a moment where you have altitude sickness, it's cold, you look up and there are only lights going up, and you look down and there are only lights going down, and you seem like stuck in this infinite loop. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to think of all these people who've supported me in my journey. And I started saying one name, and I took one step, and I said another name, and I took another step. And then I got there. So it's just to say that sometimes when we're on passion projects, it can feel very lonely. But when we zoom out and we look at the whole journey and who are the people who've been part of it, we'll actually find that we are much more interconnected than we think. So I'd like you to take a moment and just write down on a piece of paper next to you, what's your passion? What's something that you really would like to investigate further? Something that when you think of it makes you smile? Something that you really feel will make an impact in this world. In this picture, it's the top of Kilimanjaro. It's called Uhuru Peak. Uhuru means freedom, no? And sometimes following our passion leads us to freedom. And it's really interesting because not like the other mountaintops in Europe, the top of Kilimanjaro is called the roof of Africa because you can see that it's quite flat. It's not a triangle, it's a flat surface. So it's a very special summit. Okay. So after we finish the hike and we come back down, they give you a certificate of completion. And these were the 3 guides that helped us throughout the whole journey in Kilimanjaro. And the one in blue is called Elia. So as we do after every group event, what do? You create a WhatsApp group so everyone can stay in touch. And after we finished, so we did the summit in 2023 in September. So around December, I reached out in the group and I asked Elia to give me the name of an NGO in Tanzania that I could collaborate with as a designer. So he suggested to work with CHETI, which is Children Health and Education Team, Inspiration, which is a NGO where it's based on education. They have schools mainly for primary students, and it sponsors orphans, and it also takes in paying students. His children are part of this NGO. So that was a really nice intro. That's how I got to know my partners. And this was from our very first meeting with the team. So the person in yellow, he's called Steve. He was the project manager, and we worked very closely all of last year, and we're still working together this year. We have the 2 teachers Pascalina and teacher Swai, and the person in blue is Mr. Zuma. He is the head of the NGO, and he's the one who allowed us to initiate the project, and he gave us his sponsorship to reach out to all the schools that are part of the NGO. So I'd like you to have a look at what happened the first day when we were on site in Arusha, preparing all the material we had been working on for 1 year together to distribute. this was the first day when we arrived in Arusha, and we started to assemble all the parts of the project. And it was a very, very special moment because it made things so tangible. We had been working together remotely for nearly a year, and the project just kept on growing. And we started out wanting to do booklets, then we did supporting material for the teachers, then we crowdfunded, then we bought toys and art material, and then we did handcrafts. And all of these were really beyond the initial scope, but they were all part of this exchange that we had all the time with our teachers and students, that we were all inspiring each other to give the 120% that we could. So cool. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through how we did this and what we can do as service designers to make this kind of project a reality. So it's divided into a few parts. You're going to see that the separators have this pattern that comes from a cloth called kanga. So it's a special kind of cloth that's very dominant in Eastern Africa, which is where Tanzania is. And it's a kind of waxed cloth that they use for the clothes. So we don't have any Zara or H&M there. They still have a lot of seamstresses who sew clothes on demand. And so we wanted to bring in this kind of honoring of the local heritage, because it's a really important part of the project and how we perceive it. The official language in Tanzania is Swahili. So jambo jambo means hello, and it's something people will tell you all the time. Okay, so let's have some fun. When I first reached out to Chetty, I had designed these two little books, one around the zebra, another on giraffes, which are both animals that are native to Tanzania, and the giraffe is the national animal, national symbol of Tanzania. And what I wanted was to propose to give them the books designed for free that they could sell and use the profits to fundraise the NGO. However, when I talked to Mr. Zuma, Madame Swai, and Madame Pascalina and Steve, they told me that their real need was something very different. So this is a real picture from one of the classrooms in C1. And you can see the kind of teaching environment we have. It's one room per class, per student. We have around 30 students in each class. They have one big board where they write in chalk, and they write every day the lesson plan, and it's erased, and the new one is written the day after. They have these elements that are stuck on the wall, and they really rely on an auditory learning culture, which is mean the teacher says something and then the students repeat after her. So based on this real need, we found that actually the original material I had in mind didn't fit this need. What they really wanted was learning material where they could learn facts, where they could learn to write, for example, letters of the alphabet, where they could learn to count, and where they would also use these very special parts of their culture, which is, for example, singing and storytelling. So based on this initial feedback, the brief was iterated. And throughout the project, and it's very interesting what you keep as a service designer when there's no official client, you realize that like the pillars of co-creation are something you cannot leave behind, and that you bring them with you to the project. So for me, one of the first and most important pillars was co-creation. So how do we co-create when I'm based in Madrid and the whole team is based in Arusha? And we're talking about a country which has a very low internet penetration, and the internet is expensive. So one of the ways we used to, for example, select which animals would be part of our project. So we had 10 animals, 5 grazers, which are the herbivores, and 5 chasers, which are the carnivores. So when you were trying to select of all the animals that are native to Tanzania, which ones we wanted to focus on, we used WhatsApp polls. It was the easiest way to get the people to vote and to give us their opinion. We also wanted the teachers to write the stories and songs that would be included in the booklets. So we also wanted to give the teachers an opportunity to show us what is their voice, what are the values that are important to them as a society. And some of these teachers will never have something printed to their name, because you will see the classroom, there are no books, individual books for students. It's all communal. So this was how teachers would write down the songs that they had created themselves, send us a picture, we would digitize it and include it in the booklet. And if you scan this QR code, you will be able to listen to the sound of the teacher singing the song that they wrote. So this was also another way for us to create digital records, because a song only survives as long as we know the original. And we didn't want the songs to be diluted. So we invited them to send us audio notes of them singing the song. We put them in a drive, and then we created a QR code which links to them. So every single booklet has the QR code memorizing the voice of the teacher. We also created a pouch. So you saw, I talked about kangas, right? And if you can see it here, so kanga is a cloth from Eastern Africa. And we wanted the packaging to be something flexible, sustainable, and that could grow over time, because now we've done 10 booklets, but who knows, we might want to do more. So we decided to do a prototype made of cloth. And I did the prototype in Madrid, but then I sent them the dimensions and a video of how it was done, and they created it locally in Tanzania with a seamster and a sewer. And so that's also part of these kinds of ways where we prototype together, right? And we have to explain to non-designers some very technical design needs in a way that's very user-friendly. And these were like pictures that I got back from them, from the tailor, who was also putting together the choice of the choice of the cloth, the choice of the ribbons, etc. The second pillar that was really critical to this project was, how do we encourage learning by doing, right? So we started the project in January of last year, and every month or so we were testing one animal with the students. So I was creating the facts, the design, the layout, and the content, and the teachers were creating the story and the song. And then we would create the sample booklet that was sent to them to print and use. And we also created a teacher's guide where they would have real pictures with some of the key facts of the animals highlighted, so they could use both as learning aids. And then based on the feedback of that use in the classroom, we did the second animal, the third, and the fourth. And this is an example of one of the real life sessions. So we had 10 animals. We did at least 15 sessions remotely with the teachers and students in this low-tech environment. And since some of the classes we went to twice, we also tried to create extra learning material, so not every class seemed the same. In this case, we created puzzles for them to assemble and guess the animal they were working on. We also did some live drawing competition where they were drawing and showing us the picture through their laptop. We had a huge variety of artistic abilities, and you can see here there's a cat, because I have a cat who was so in love with the students' voices. Every time the students were singing, she would come across the screen, and so she became the unofficial mascot of our project, and people were always asking me, where's Allegra, where's Allegra? She didn't come and say hello to us today, okay? And then the idea also of these materials was we wanted them to be reusable and to be also something that we could scale easily. So for example, a puzzle is something you can print, you can cut, and it's very easy to produce, and once you've done it well, you can keep and reuse again and again. The final pillar is adaptability, okay? So this is the reality of our testing environment. We had one laptop that Steve took with him to each of the classes, to each of the different schools in Arusha. There was no widescreen, there was a very bad internet connection. So what we did is we use WhatsApp video on the laptop to have a connection, because Google, Teams, Zoom were not supported by the quality of the network. Okay, and that was the context of use that we had. We also had sometimes really nice classes where they went outside. When it was a really nice day and it was sunny, they flipped the classroom and they took everyone outside. So we had sessions inside, outside, in the sun, singing, dancing. It was really, really beautiful. And every time we had to adapt to whatever we found. But I also needed some feedback, and you also start to learn that there are some traits that are inherent to every culture. For example, in Tanzania, they consider it rude to give you feedback in the sense of this can be improved. They always want to say thank you and thank you for the job done. But as designers, we know that we need feedback in order to iterate. So one of the ways I counteracted this is I made a working group in Madrid with friends who are mothers and designers. And I printed out all the booklets and we did a critique session. So they went over it and they looked at the kind of language we use. They looked at the tone of voice. They looked at the materials. They looked at the spacing and alignment. And we had like a huge critique where they helped me improve the quality of this. So even though I couldn't get direct feedback from my end users on very specific technical details, I could get it from somewhere else. So this is also an invitation for us to be a bit flexible. We know what's important, and we sometimes need to look for different sources of it. And one of the key parts of the project is we ended up doing a crowdfunding, and we printed professionally all these booklets because we wanted them to be in a durable material that could be handled many times and survive. But the size of this of these booklets was consciously chosen to be able to be produced low cost. So if you look at the booklet and we open it out, it's the size of half an A3 recto verso. So if I wanted to print this at my local copy center, I could do it. And I would get 2 booklets per A3 where I would just cut it, fold it in 4, and the booklet is done. Okay, so this was a very conscious design decision because we wanted this project to be something that could be sustainable and feasible for people to produce and use. And then we also tried to make it into a scalable design system because we were doing 10 and I was the only person doing the design, the content, the client negotiation, and the activation with the teachers. I had to find ways to make this easy to scale and to have clarity on what kind of design decisions we made. So at a later stage, I'll show you the different parts of the booklet. They all had the same parts, but then they were also customized in a small way. And just because it has to have a design system doesn't mean it needs to be boring. So even though we had a very continuous line and a very clear look and feel, we also wanted to give it a very fun and spontaneous part. So all the fronts of the pages had the animals with their names and the main characteristic. For example, gazelles are pronking. Pronking means when the gazelle jumps and it has its 4 feet in the air. That's what it means to pronk. So on the front page, we had the gazelles with in English, and on the back page, we had the pattern of the animal and the name and the verb in Swahili, because that's also to honor the local culture. And then finally, these are my 2 co-conspirators when I was in Arusha. So, you know, Steve, and this is Moody. So we were always going together to visit all the schools and activate the sessions. So when I went to visit in September of this year, I took all the printed material. We had done around 100 booklets divided for the 5 schools. And we also had the teacher's guides. We had the toys. We had a lot of things. And some of these schools were in rural areas. So we took the school bus to reach there. And I jokingly call our school bus the yellow submarine because it was bright yellow. Yellow is one of the official colors of Tanzania, and it was the color of the school. So with these 2 people, I spent the 10 days in Tanzania visiting the different schools, activating with the teachers. And by the end of that time, they could perfectly explain the project and the brief and the activities. And it was an important part of doing this handover of learning by doing. Okay. So while you're climbing up Kilimanjaro, there's a phrase you're going to hear a lot, and it's pole pole. So it means go slowly. So a lot of times when we come from a culture where we are very rushed, or like a corporate culture where it's like consulting, for example, where it's all about do, we don't take the time to pause and think, why are we doing, what are we doing, how can we do it better? So a very important part of Tanzania culture is this idea of you want to reach, but you want to do so meaningfully. So in the next part, we're going to explore how can we go pole pole in a project. So the project we talked about, we ended up doing 10 booklets. All of these animals are native to Tanzania, and it was an important part of the project that we wanted to honor the local culture and heritage. Okay, we did not want to import animals from other parts of the world. We did not want to impose any mindset that's not local. And so we co-created and selected and prioritized which animals the children would be really excited to learn about. So we have on the top row, we have the grazers or the herbivores, the zebras who are running, gazelles plunking, elephants drinking, buffaloes grazing, and giraffes roaming. And on the bottom row, we have the chasers who are the carnivores. So we have the crocodiles swimming, lions roaring, hyenas laughing, leopards leaping, and baboons grooming. So fun fact, the baboons are carnivores because they also tend to eat meat sometimes. I never knew this until I do the research of the project. Another interesting fact is that giraffes, for example, they have a tongue which is blue in color because since they use their tongue to eat the leaves, the blue color prevents it from getting sunburned. And the final interesting fact of the day is that zebras and giraffes, the pattern of their coat is unique. It's like a fingerprint. No two zebras have the same stripe pattern. No two giraffes have the same stripe pattern. So I promised I'd tell you a bit more about the breakdown of the content of the booklets. So you can see that we had its fourfold recto verso. And on the front part, we have, of course, the cover page with the name of the animal. And on the back, you can see it's the pattern of that animal with the name in Swahili. And then we have at the top row, the song and story that are both chosen and written by teachers. So this is part of the content that was co-created. You will see that we always have represented children, a boy and a girl, and they look like the children of Tanzania. And we have the QR code, which allows you to scan and listen to the voice of the teacher singing the song they wrote. On the bottom part, this was something that we standardized. So the first two are about facts. The categories are the same except this one. So you always will have species, behavior, features, and food and drink of each animal. And in the third column, it's something very particular to that animal. So for example, in the case of the zebras, we talk about the stripes and the eyesight. Okay? And for example, that zebras, they can see in full color during the day and during the night. In the next two parts, this was based on the feedback that they gave us on the kind of content that they teach. So you will see that we have at the top part something which is more artistic or geometrical, so it's either colors or shapes. On the bottom part, you will have how to write a letter. Usually it's the letter of the name of the animal, so Z for zebra. In the case of, for example, lion and leopard, where they both start with the letter L, we chose the name in Swahili, for example, Chui, which is the leopard in Swahili, and so they learn to write the letter C. So through these 10 booklets, they learn to write 10 letters of the alphabet. And in the last page, we also wanted to introduce the concept of counting. So since we have 10 booklets from 1 to 10, each booklet was one of the 10 numbers, and you would have to do something like count the numbers of the animals, count the numbers of the patterns, count the eggs, count the leaves, etc. And we talked about representation, and it's very, very important to have a very clear role as a designer and to be conscious of our power. So for example, as designers, we can choose to make sure that the project target audience is represented in the project. And that's why I chose on purpose to always have children that are Black, because that's the population of Tanzania. I always was very sure to put a girl and a boy because I wanted to talk that both girls and boys have the opportunity to make a difference. It's not just boys who can make a difference in society. Also, when I did the course, a lot of my students are pluri-religious. Like in Lebanon, we have Christians, we have Muslims, we have a lot of religions, and it's the same in Tanzania. So I also wanted to ensure that the children there look like the children, and some of the girls will be wearing their veil, because that's the reality of the context. And I'm not trying to judge the context, I'm trying to honor the context. So these are one of the little ways that we as designers can really influence the projects and make sure that we give democratic access to people who maybe otherwise wouldn't have it. And at the end, it's also this idea that when we're doing something we're passionate about, we can then expand our comfort zone. And sometimes during the project, it was really clear that we were working in contrasts. This is the reality of the school wall, a paper A4 drawn stuck with sellotape on the wall. And then I was creating a lot of this content using Gen AI. So all the illustrations that you saw were done in Illustrator using Gen AI. We also used Drive to digitize. We used Gemini to fact check. We used WhatsApp to do all the co-creation and sending out the material. We used QR codes to digitize. We used UCOD to create videos. We even created GoFundMe. So it's really interesting to think that just because we're in a low-tech context doesn't mean we cannot use high-tech tools to help speed up the process, make it cheaper for us to execute, and with a faster time to delivery, especially since in this case, I was the only person who had the design skills to execute. So even though content was co-created, everything that had to do with layout and all that work was something I did alone. And also talking about comfort zones, a lot of times as designers, we don't engage in the financial part of a project. We decide that this is something that someone else needs to deal with, but actually we can actually have a big role to play. And I'd like to just show you a bit of how we ended up sponsoring the project because the NGO couldn't pay for anything. So we did a crowdfunding campaign in order to raise all the expenses of the printing. So we used a platform called GoFundMe, which is really good because it protects the donors. So in case this didn't become real, they would have their donations returned. It was also a really good way to document the project because then we would put the updates and we would say, okay, we've achieved this. We've been able to print the booklets already. We've done 100 pouches. This is the look and feel of some of the material. And every time you would give an update of how far are we from the crowdfunding, and thanks to their donation, what were we able to achieve. And so we were able to achieve the full funding for the printing, as well as buying toys and also some arts material, which made us very, very happy. And of course, you all know the phrase Hakuna Matata from The Lion King. It's actually in Swahili. That's something they use a lot. And I just wanted to honor all the teachers that were part of our project. So these are the teachers that created the content with us. And it might be one of the few times they will have their name printed somewhere. So all the booklets include this special thing. We ended up also doing teacher guides for all the animals, arts and crafts, toys, and creating material. We reached 600 students in 7 schools, and we worked with 30 teachers. And as we start getting to the end of our project, I want to show you how the students lived one day in their life when we went and visited them in their school. So this is just a sample of one of the days. So we spent 10 days in Tanzania, and every day we visited a different school. And it was really, really, really very humbling to see all the passion and energy that they have to learn. And it was beautiful to be also able to share this part of learning is not just memorizing, it's also singing, it's also dancing, it's also drawing. We used a lot of recycled material because that's what they had available to them. And all these ways were invitations for us, no, to go beyond what we usually do and explore together different ways of getting things done. And so if you want to wrap up, what could be some key conclusions that we can take with us? For me, one of the most important one is that there's no limit to curiosity, and it's really beautiful. I love working with kids. I think they're our best bet for having a better world tomorrow. So I love working with kids. And I also love seeing this spark in their eyes when they're like trying to figure out what's coming next, how to digest this information. So seeing the world through the eyes of children, it's like a really beautiful gift. And it's also that we don't lose this child within, right? So even though for the children, it was like a kind of new way of engaging with material, for the teachers, we also brought in another layer, where we talked about arts and crafts. We talked about how we could create also concepts, not just auditory repeating of an information, but also creating visuals and making spatial, constructions about the topics we are learning. And they had an amazing curiosity and a huge desire to learn. And it's also something that with learning, it's all about handovers, because that's how knowledge grows and transforms. And so it was really also beautiful to see that in every session we did the handcrafts, but then somewhere in the middle of the session, the teachers took over and they kept on teaching the lesson with what they had just learned. And that's like beautiful and very, very humbling. And we also need to think that when there's a will, there's a way. So we can either say, this is a low-tech environment, I do nothing, or we can say, oh, that's a lovely constraint. How can I work within it? Right? We can say, this is a school where it's on the very basic structure, or we can say, okay, how do I play within this environment and make it the best it can be? So that's always going to be a conscious decision that we need to take. Okay, and it's the same. So we have access to materials. We needed to do something that would not cost them a lot to produce. So what we did is all the crafts that we brought in were things that they could stencil on recycled cardboard. So this is something cheap and easy to access. We took gifts of arts material so they could have to make the first prototypes themselves. We also did some things on stones, and we went to visit a waterfall and we collected stones for them and we brought them back and they did their own. So I think this is also an invitation to play and to say, okay, in what new ways can we approach this project? And we can always look at things and say, do I want to look for the difference, or do I want to look for the things that connect us? So for me, it was also beautiful to be in company of these women who are teachers. All of them are mothers. I'm not a mother, but I was still very welcome there. I don't have the same color of skin as them, but I was still welcome there. And we all wanted to share. We all had a lot of joy. We all had a lot of interesting questions we wanted to ask each other about how we live and what we do and what's next for us. And that was like just a gift, to be present to each other and the beautiful realities we each hold. And so for me, it's important that we sometimes think that we shouldn't do a project because the scope can be very limited. But the truth is that whatever we plant with love, it will keep on growing. Okay, and even one little drop will make a huge difference at the end. So one of the parts of the project, so we did it in September. I went there. I was there for 10 days. And then after I came back, I had closed an agreement with the NGO leader where every Friday is Animal Day. So they will keep on exploring the books and the different animals all throughout the year. And every Friday, I receive a video of one of the classes with one of the things they've learned. So that's been like a really beautiful way to see how this project, it will grow organically without you. So as a service designer, you can be this initiator, but then the community will take over hosting the process. So in case someone would like to donate, so in order to sponsor a child in Tanzania, it's around 130 euros for a whole year of education, and it's 230 if it includes the meals. and it can either be done online or via Western Union. I can guarantee that they will be used. And in the previous time we launched this, we got together some of the people donated, and I completed them, and we sponsored one child called Neil Hart Ramadan for next year tuition fee. So that was a very, very beautiful opportunity for us. And I want you to go back now to that paper you had where you wrote that thing you were passionate about. And I want you to think, based on all the things you've seen today and all the ways you can prototype, all the ways you can use the constraints to your favor, what's one concrete action you're going to take to make your passion a reality? And I want to tell you, Asante Sana, thank you so, so, so much for the space, for the time to connect. And of course, questions, anything you would like, please go ahead.
Thank you very, very much for sharing, the story of the rich overview of the incredible work that you've done. There were so many creative solutions, thoughtful design decisions, and I've been inspired. Particularly, I found that fascinating that there weren't, the lessons weren't taught separately. There were no like math, reading, writing, and children learned all these topics together. And I found it very smart because in real life we often, face challenges using different skills at the same time. So we're going to open the Q&A, and please use the feature raising hands, and I will call on you, and then you can open your microphone and ask your questions. Okay. Who is going to be the first one? If no one, I guess volunteer, I'm gonna ask you so many questions. But I'd love to invite people to ask you questions. Okay, before people, gather their minds and ideas and questions, I can come up with this one. Okay, for when we want to, because we are hosting designers and non-designers today, I want to specifically ask you this question, that when we want to, go from passion to project, we have to make really difficult, someone just want to join. Difficult decisions, and we need to have this North Star to make those hard decisions. Sometimes for some people it's their initial ideas, for some people it's the ultimate impact that we want to make. For someone is the stakeholders, the people that they want to serve, their needs and what they want. So what do you think that, and what is it for you?
That's a really good question. I think it's important that we honor what brings our spark alive, right? So there's not one right answer, there's what's right for you. So for me, for example, I really believe that education is the way to impact the future, right? I was a Scouts leader before, so I used to work a lot with kids, and that was something that was important to me. So what I really wanted was to be able to create a material that would stay there, that could be reused and reaccessed. And that was kind of my driver. So I wanted something that would outlast me and that would stay there and that would be useful. And that works for me because I like making things real. That's something that I enjoy. So I just use that to my advantage.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, we have a question here. Fatima Haydari asked this: how did you come up with the idea that booklets are the missing point in the kids' experience?
So when I started the project, I started it from the sense that I'm originally a graphic designer, so what I could provide as a design solution was something that could be maybe printed. Okay, so that was the initial idea. when I asked them what they needed and I showed them a prototype, they gave me feedback and said, no, we don't want something artistic that's more creative. We want something which is more practical. So then the categories are something that I validated with the teachers and with the NGO, okay? And to be honest, after I went there and I saw how they teach, because I hadn't gone to a student. I had been in Tanzania, I had met the people, I knew the culture, but I hadn't done an immersive educational experience before I started the project. Then I realized that actually, since most of their learning is communal, something that would probably be a good second step in this project would be to create large-scale posters that could be hung in the classroom and that everyone could have access to at the same time. So I started out with the idea of the booklets because I thought that it would be nice to promote a kind of learning where every few students would have one booklet to follow with the teacher, that they would gather them, because they have booklets for each school. It's not booklets for each student. But something I saw on the ground that worked really well were the teacher's guides, which were bigger format with more real images. So I believe if I would do an iteration of the project or a next step, I would create large-scale posters that would be waterproof, that could be hung in the rooms. That would be my next step, because the booklets were really good for the information, but I also saw that sometimes they're afraid to touch them because they want to keep them like precious. So maybe doing something that would be visual from a distance for everyone would also have been a good design solution.
Thank you for the question and for the inspiring answer. Okay. Okay, I thought it's another question. So it was, it comes up from what we can provide, the role that we can play, and also the needs and requirements of the stakeholders and the context, right?
Yep. And
yeah,
if someone wants to do questions in Persian as well, it's perfect. I know Mehrnoush will
yeah, I'm gonna translate it, please. Okay. I think I've asked you before, but I think it might be interesting to ask it again. That if you want to do this again, what are the lessons that are going to change the way that you will do such a project differently in future? Yeah.
So one of the things that made it easy for me to do the project was that it was a one-woman show, right? So I initiated the client discussions, I did all the calls with the teachers and the students in the classes, I designed the booklet, I did the crowdfunding, and I went and visited the location. No? So one of the things that I think I would change was that maybe I would find a NGO that had clear their need instead of me generating it for them, right? Because since it's a public sector buy-in, the timings are very different. So you need to be very patient. You need to also work in channels that are not formal, like WhatsApp. It's not so much about the email. Like emails get no answers. So you need to be WhatsApp friendly, even if as a professional, that's not the channel I would like to use with my clients. Like you need to be very flexible. So I think one thing I would do is to find a partner that has clear their need. That would be one thing. And I think the second thing would be that I went to Tanzania and I saw the country, but then I didn't go and see the schools. And I think next time what I would do is, instead of going at just at the end of the project, because when I went, I discovered that they felt it was the start of the project, because it's like you're virtual, so you're kind of like floating somewhere in the atmosphere, you're not real. So maybe I would actually do a site visit first and then do another closing visit. That would be something I would change. And I think it would be, and I had different collaborators at different levels, but I think it would also be fun to have someone who's a partner, right? Like, so it doesn't feel that it's all on me, because it was sometimes hard to feel like I learned a lot in the project. Like I hadn't used Gen AI for illustration before. I hadn't done a crowdfunding before. There are lots of things that were growth areas for me. And sometimes partners can bring in this knowledge. So that could also be something cool to have.
Thank you very much for sharing these insights with us, and that we're gonna think over them, and for a long time, I'm sure of it. And thank you to everyone that joined us today. You can follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and also you can find how to follow Joumana on LinkedIn and also her website in the chat box of this meet. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Joumana.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Take care, everyone, and have a lovely, lovely weekend, okay?
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Perfect. And thank you to all the technical team that gave us the support throughout all this meeting and all the follow-up questions. Thank you so much. And big thanks to Mehrnoush and all the SD Pulse team, because it took a lot of effort, and they did the videos and the invites, and it was very, very beautiful to be part of this community.
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and sharing this insightful, personal, and professional, story of yours. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can stop recording here.
Perfect.